And let me bring in my next guest now. It's James Dorsey. He is an adjunct senior fellow at S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies, joining me now live from Singapore. Thank you there for joining us here on the News Hour here at TRT World. I want to start by asking you about this ruling from the International Court of Justice. They're talking about increasing the capacity and number of land crossing points and maintaining them open for as long as necessary. Do you see the Israelis actually following this ruling?
The problem is that Israel is de jure obliged to comply with the court's decisions. De facto, there's nothing the court as such can do about it. It can't enforce it. That's up to members of the international community, obviously first and foremost here the United States because of its close relations with Israel. And only if the United States insists on that Israel enforce those decisions by the court will that happen. What I think we will see is greater U.S. pressure on Israel to allow much more unfettered humanitarian supplies, food, medical supplies, and so on to enter Gaza.
And what's that pressure going to look like? I mean, you're talking about Israel being obliged but can't be forced to do it. I mean, so far, the U.S. has told Israel that they can't invade Rafah, but they're still saying they're going to do it. We're still seeing the international court saying don't commit acts of genocide. Now the court's actually telling the Israelis, make sure your military is not committing acts of genocide. So what kind of pressure do you see the U.S. putting on Israel here?
Well, first of all, I think obviously there's the pressure of both the financial aid that the United States gives Israel, arms sales to Israel, but the Americans are now hinting that they have already rejected certain requests by Israel. And there's the diplomatic cover that the United States gives Israel. But I think one needs to also take a step back. What we're seeing here is a very cynical battle by Israel, by Hamas, by the United States, over basically trying to have the building blocks for control of post-war Gaza. So Israel wants aid to go through channels that it controls wholly, which are not the United Nations, and they are not obviously Hamas. It wants to work through the tribes and the clans. On the other hand, Hamas wants control of the aid flow because that's a building block for a post-war administration. So I think that's what makes all of this much more complicated.
But, I mean, you're talking about post-war Gaza, and my point is the same on that one. The Israelis are saying that they want to make sure that they have military control of Gaza after the war, whereas the U.S. says, no, it has to be the Palestinian Authority. So where do you see this going?
I think, inevitably, there's got to be some sort of showdown between the United States and Israel, whether that's a showdown behind closed doors, whether that's a public spat in which the Americans apply real pressure. I think one has to wait and see.
All right, James Dorsey, an adjunct senior fellow at S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies. Thank you so much for your time here on TRT World.